Hello, everyone. Welcome Down Home Crypto. I'd like to introduce you to Greg Tucker, the man behind Spartan Bitcoin Mining. How you doing, Greg?
I'm good, but I'm not the man behind Bitcoin mining. I'm one of several people behind Spartan Bitcoin. But thanks for having me today. It's good to join your channel, and let's get into it.
Absolutely. Great to have you here. So right off the bat, it's great to see another bald guy on screen. I wore my bald shirt today just for you. So
I ran across a picture. We were going through our garage last night, and there was a picture of me 20 years ago. I didn't have any hair then either, so I don't know what happened.
I think it's the braids. I always say bald is sexy. That's just my response. So
we'll go with that.
It is. So now, Greg, right off the bat, you said there's a bunch of people behind Spartan Bitcoin Mining, but now obviously we're not the youngest people in the game here. So what inspired you to get into crypto, and how did you get here?
Oh, sure. Well, wow, I don't know how far back I have to go. I've been fortunate, man. I started my career in food service. Jerry Richardson, who built the Carolina Panthers, he was the president and CEO of the company that I worked for. They were called Spartan, by the way, Spartan Food Systems. And I was fortunate enough to be with that company for 16 years. And it taught me everything that I know about business and business relationships and work ethic and all of that. I mean, it was a close-knit group of people. I still to this day am in contact with a lot of those folks. It was just a unique place to work. We worked hard and long hours, but we were all really close-knit. And I was fortunate that I was working in the food service side of things back when there wasn't a restaurant on every single corner. So I caught that wave early. From there, I started a medical equipment business. Oxygen, ventilators, enteral tube feeding, that sort of thing. So I came along, during that 10 or 12 year period at a time where I guess I caught that wave as well. I caught it at a time where the reimbursements and there wasn't a medical equipment company on every corner at that time either.
Right.
From there, the internet kind of came on the scene. I was fortunate enough to make some investments in that time frame, and from there, I had kids, and kids required me to kind of slow down a little bit, quit climbing the corporate ladder, and be in their lives. When I look now at crypto, I think my first inkling about crypto was probably back in 2012. I had the opportunity to buy some Bitcoin back in the day and didn't do it.
Oh,
I hate myself the whole time. But I think the first time I probably got involved with crypto was 2017. Okay. So went to my first crypto conference, I guess you'd call it, in Vegas. Wow, that was a long time ago. But being in the food service industry, being in the medical equipment industry, being in the early development of the internet and so forth, and just kind of being involved in being on the front end of a lot of technology that's come our way across this time frame. At my age, at age 60, I thought I would never have the opportunity to catch another wave. But crypto is truly one of those unique ways, where probably the most unique, in that we're still early. 2009, 2010, 13 years seems like a long time, but man, we're still early in the game. And with Bitcoin being the primary driver of the whole thing, it made sense for me at my age to get involved in something where I could talk to people most of the time on my level. It hasn't worked out that way. Most of the people I'm talking about with this project are actually probably anywhere from 20 to 25, 30 years younger than me, which is okay, I like that. I mean, we're developing a network of individuals like yourself, YouTubers, each of them crypto experts in their own right, each of them approaching it from a different perspective. And a different experience level and different knowledge level. So I've enjoyed every step of the process so far. But when we put it together, the thought was, if you read through our website, you'll see that it says one of the hardest things to do is to explain to a complete novice what Bitcoin is. Do that. If
this
you
is
can
true.
explain I sat at a restaurant the other night with two complete strangers. Actually, they were connected by another friend of mine, but and spent 10 minutes explaining Bitcoin to them. I do that on occasion. I have to ask myself, do I really want to get into this? But when you do it and you pull it off, it's always satisfying, right?
It is, absolutely. And yeah, speaking of YouTuber stuff, I want to say, hey, Yabunks, good to have you here with me, brother. Nice to see you. And Wild Angel, welcome. And so I'm very big about integrity, honesty, and transparency. So to start off, everyone, I got to let you know, I am an investor in Spartan and that I absolutely believe in the project. But that does not mean I'm going to go easy on Greg. In fact, it's going to be just the opposite. Because, Greg, I hope you're prepared. I'm going to go deeper and harder than probably most people have on this project because I am an ASIC miner. I have been involved in this. And, I think there's a lot of great information that hasn't been released to the people. So hope you packed a lunch. This could be a fun trip.
All right.
Okay, and welcome, Cole. So right off the bat, for those who don't know about Spartan, could you give us a quick overview? What is Spartan Bitcoin Mining?
Sure. Spartan Bitcoin Mining is a company that filed with the SEC in order to raise up to $5 million per year in order to operate a Bitcoin mining operation. And again, I guess I didn't finish that train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
The thought was putting this together would be a great opportunity for people in my age group to invest in crypto because they don't know the ins and outs of everything that's involved. But what they can say is, based on my years of experience and my deep pockets and my age group, I'm more than willing to take a look at what you have to offer. Bitcoin mining is probably the least riskiest way of putting your toe in the water when it comes to crypto. So it is attractive. And be quite honest with you, we do have a lot of investors that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, even 80s. So there are people out there that are intrigued by it and are more than willing to put the minimum investment in to be involved in the crypto space. But we filed with the SEC back in September of 2020. What's today? 22. We actually launched on April the 5th of 2023. So April 4th of 2024 will be a full rolling 12 months. And over that rolling 12 months, you can raise up to $5 million. We probably won't come anywhere close to that number, but just know that what we did was file with the SEC through what's called a Reg C filing, CF. If you go to our website at SpartanBitcoinMining.com and you click on the invest right there, that's click on the invest now button.
Okay.
And well, that's actually the website that you go to if you hit the invest button on our website. But if you'll click out of that.
Okay. There we go. Okay.
There you go. If you go to our actual website, SpartanBitcoinMining.com, and click on the Invest Now button, you'll land on this page that you've got pulled up here.
Oh, okay. That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So while you've got that up there, I'll kind of walk you through
yes, please.
Some of the things that you see there. So we can raise up to $5 million. The initial investment, $10,000. That was just a base number you have to set before you can start pulling money from escrow. The minimum investment is $300 per investor, and the average, or not the average, but the actual share price currently is $1 per share. So nice and simple. The offering ends March 12th, 2024. Technically, we launched on April the 5th, but if you go back and look at all of the paperwork that's filed, we'll probably end up, March 12th.
Right.
If you scroll down on that page, we'll just kind of go through some things. There's a video
Sure.
there. You don't have to click on it. The good thing about filing with the SEC, go ahead and pull up that offering section there.
Offering, okay.
Filing with the SEC gives you a sense of security, I guess, that the people that are investing your money aren't going to take it and do something nefarious with it or do something out of bounds. Because when you do file with the SEC, you have to let them know what are your plans. There's a 67-page document that there's a link at the top of the page there. Mm-hmm. But what this says in a nutshell is here's how we plan to use the proceeds. Right now, 66% right there where it says of the proceeds will go toward Bitcoin mining equipment. 4% toward fees, 26. What is that? Scroll down just a little bit. Let me see what it says there. General administrative, and then 4% for salaries. That's what we filed. Currently, we're closer to 90% of every dollar going toward the purchase of Bitcoin mining equipment. The reason behind that is the general and administrative included some marketing expenses. And we started with a marketing company that was used to traditional businesses. And the way they went about it was through Facebook and other social media platforms. When they signed on with a crypto company, they ran into a lot of roadblocks, and they weren't able to perform as we expected, and as they expected. So we have grassrooted, if that's the word, we've grassrooted this thing since almost day one. And what I mean by that is we're growing this through just getting the word out through people like yourself, like Yvonne's, and like James Pelton and others that have done AMAs. And then also through videos that people have been willing to put together on our behalf. So salaries is 0. General administrative is a much lower number than that. It's probably closer to 5% or less. So right now, everything for calendar year 2023 is just going toward the purchase of the Bitcoin mining equipment. So if you'll see there, invest now and view the Form C. Don't click on that link, but if you do click on it, just so that people that are on your page know, it'll take you over to just a very detailed document that outlines exactly what our plans are for this particular project. Okay. So there you go. I don't know if I answered your question, but there are 4 of us that are part of the original team. We did some bonus shares on the front end. There you go. There's my lovely bride. And scroll down a little bit, and these other 2 ladies, they handle all the day-to-day of everything that needs to happen when it comes to the management of the business. I'm lucky enough to be able to talk to people like you and just go out and network with people in the crypto community to get the word out and bring awareness to the project. So scroll on down a little bit, and let's see what else we got there. Go ahead on down. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Okay. On that particular website.
Okay, perfect. So, and that gives a great overview here. Now, of course, Spartan Bitcoin Mining has a very unique business model compared to the other crypto mining farms that I've seen out there, which are NFT based or things along those lines. You guys are actually operating as an SEC registered business, giving shares out. Now, why is that a good thing compared to just going with a normal NFT project?
Good question. Probably a couple different reasons. First and foremost, you have something in exchange for your investment that has a value, right? There are no really business statements, income statements, balance sheets, that sort of thing in the crypto space. This is more of a traditional finance type approach. That's why some of the people, or a lot of the people that have invested, have been in our age group. Because that's something they understand. They understand how to measure the value of a project. So how do you measure the success of Spartan Bitcoin? Well, we bring in investment dollars, minimum investment $300 at $1 a share. We take those dollars that first have to be processed through KYC, and then also they go to an escrow account. And we don't pull funds out until it reaches the escrow stage. Once it gets to that point, we pull those dollars and we buy the Bitcoin mining equipment, and we put it in place, and it's up and running as quickly as we can make that happen. In addition to that, for every rig that we put in place, for every mining rig we put in place, we put another $1,000, flat $100,000 into a separate reserve account. The reason we do that is I don't even have to explain that for you today, because I'm looking at crypto. Bitcoin price is, give me a second.
Sure.
25,978 as we speak. 2 weeks ago, we're talking 29,000, 30,000. So everybody in the crypto space knows how quickly Bitcoin can fluctuate, and it can go just the opposite direction just as quickly. But this is a perfect example of us being underwater right now. We've been underwater June, July, and August. We actually made some money our first month. We're tickled to death about that. $314, if I recall correctly.
Hey, a win's a win.
But yeah, as long as we're running the risk of breaking even or being underwater, that $100,000 that $1,000 per rig in the reserve account is for those rainy days, just in the general sense of things. Just, as you go forward over the next 2 to 6 years, and we put projections together, by the way, for 6 years, because as we all know, crypto runs through cycles, and we're currently looking at going on the uptrend if things stay consistent as they have in the past. And over 6 years, we would have the opportunity to catch 2 of those cycles. Wouldn't that be great if we were able to do that? Now, because we've set it up that way, this is, I guess you'd consider it a long-term investment. However, 2 years is the minimum. We want to run this thing at least 2 years, up to 6. And at that point, we, from day one, had the exit strategy in mind. Your original question was, why do you buy in? Why do you want to have shares in a company? Because at some point between 2 years from now and 6 years from now, those shares that you have in this company will hold a value. What are they worth? Are they worth a penny? Are they worth $6? We don't know at this point. But what we do know is we've built it out in a way where if we do what we have set out to do, those shares should increase in value over time. So let me give you a scenario. Let's say that, let's just use the first rolling 12 months. At the end of this first rolling 12 months, let's say we've got 100 rigs, okay? I'll just use nice round numbers. We've got 100 rigs in operation. That means we have $100,000 in reserve, and we have Bitcoin that has been generated by those rigs over the course of those rolling 12 months. So what that tells you is this company, at that particular point in time, after that first rolling 12 months, they have 100 mining rigs. That's an asset. They have $100,000 in the bank. That's an asset. And they have whatever Bitcoin has been accumulated that hasn't been either used to pay bills or has been paid out in dividends on those months where we actually are profitable. And we'll talk about that here as well. Perfect. But long story short, look at any business, and if you plan appropriately, if you plan the right way, if you launch your business with the thought process that there needs to be an exit strategy and there needs to be an advantage to the investors that are willing to join us on this journey, then what does it look like? What does that look like down the road? Well, there's 2 options. One, we can take it public. We could take this whole company public, and those shares would just transition from a private company under Reg C over to a publicly traded company that would just be traded on E-Trade or TD Ameritrade like any other publicly traded company. Or we could sell, right? We could sell the entire operation. If you set yourself up from day one as an attractive acquisition target, and the crypto space has not even reached that phase yet. No. I remember in the food service industry, wow, and we were directly impacted by that. There were these corporate raiders that used to go out and they would just buy up, and they would either operate or split off and sell the assets. And it was a big deal back in the day. It'll happen in crypto at some point. There'll be deep pockets that go, why don't we buy this, and this? Well, you know what? What if there's a company looking to roll up and become a Bitcoin mining operation, a conglomerate of sorts? And the way they go about it is to purchase small operators. So if we're positioned just right, where we've got assets on the book, Bitcoin mining rigs, cash on hand, and Bitcoin, and little to no debt, and I can almost tell you with certainty that there will be no debt on the books by the time that happens, because there's very little debt on the books now, then it's a benefit for everybody that's involved. So here's the other thing I'll tell you. At my age, 60, how old are you, by the way?
51. All right, I'm pretty close.
You're still a young. You're still at my age, this isn't something that we put together in order to pay our bills, in order to live our lives with, right? this is something we put together for the 5 or 6 years also happens to, I'm sorry, the 6 years also happens to coincide with when my kids are getting out of school, out of college, right? So here's the way we look at it. They're going to be out of college 5 years, 6 years at the most, right? At that point, it would be great for us to travel and just spend time, hopefully, with kids and grandkids and all that. At that point, that's the phase we are in our lives at this point. So that's why we put it together and thought, man, that there's a lot of things that kind of fit together, and if it happens the way we have it planned, it'll work out just perfectly. But here's another. You went back. You said earlier about honesty and integrity and truthfulness and all that. We had that same thought process on the front end, and maybe I can combine that with the term shareholder friendly, right?
Okay.
One huge advantage of me working with Spartan Bitcoin, by the way, notice that Spartan Food Systems, Spartan Bitcoin. I live in Spartanburg, South Carolina, by the way. You put all that together. Was not only did we enjoy what we did, and there was a close-knit group of people, but man, when it came right down to it, I remember one of Richardson's biggest catchphrases was "right is right, wrong is wrong." Right is right, wrong is wrong. And that's just the way we've always, or me personally, I've always dealt with anything business related. So when we put this together, we said, how can we make this shareholder friendly? How can we make it where there's so much integrity and honesty in this thing, where people will understand that we're not out here to rob them blind or do anything ridiculous. So number one, you set the minimum investment at $300, right? We would rather have 50,000 investors with $300 each in the program or in the project, much more than we would people throwing their 401k money at it and investing hundreds of $1,000s. We're perfectly fine with having a broad base, being a mile wide and a foot deep. We're okay with that, because we don't want people to do something that they're not financially ready to do or capable of doing. So that's one thing. Second thing is, for calendar year 2023, we're not taking any salaries. And to be quite honest with you, the more we think about it, who knows when we'll take salaries? We may never take them. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go. But here's the other thing we did on the front end. Most people that would start a company like this and go through the process of filing with the SEC and putting it out there, they're probably going to start with 60, 70, 80, 90% of the ownership of the shares, right?
Right.
The founders, the officers and directors of the company will never own more than 20% of this company in the common shares. Okay. So I want you to think about that a second. We'll never own more than 20% of the common shares. The common shares are what represents the value of the company and what will be represented in the exit strategy. So if we were to sell the company down the road at $10 million, we make 20% of that. We're okay with that, man. We live frugally. We don't, I could pan around and show you my house real quick. There's no glamour, no glitz here. It's just
perfect. Hey, I like that.
Frugally, and hey, if we end up making 20% of whatever it is, we're okay with it. Okay. Because like I said, all we're really going to do at that point is travel anyway. But the journey between now and then is what I'm really looking forward to. So far, it's been a blast. We've met, I want to say, somewhere between 12 and 16 people like yourself that are all unique in their own way. They're all very talented, and they're smart as a whip too. I mean, whip smart people. Just they just happen to be in the crypto space, and we are just tickled to death to be in relationships with people like that, because I would much rather. You mentioned that you're involved and you made an investment in Spartan Bitcoin. I would much rather be involved with people like yourself and Yabonks and Pelton and all those folks than put one dime in the hands of a marketing company. I would love to continue to grassroots this thing as we go forward. And what that's going to entail is more people like yourself and more videos and content and posts to make this work. But long story short, We're not taking a salary for 2023. Not sure if we'll ever take a salary the more we think about it. And once we do implement our exit strategy, we're only going to take 20%, which means we'll only take 20% of the dividends as well. So we haven't even talked about that yet.
Right.
On those profitable months, we actually pay out a dividend to the shareholders. We'll take 80% of what was made for that month and pay it back to our shareholders. For the calendar year 2023, it'll be in shares. Going forward in 2024, it'll be in cash. The reason we didn't do it in cash immediately is because people are paying with some are paying with crypto, some are paying with credit cards, some are paying with wire transfer, and some are paying with their checking account, right? So in order for us to pay dividends, you have to have your checking account information there. I think only about 40% of the entire investment pool had that information on the website. So we decided to do it with shares. It was only for a month or so. It may not even be an issue depending on what happens with, price of Bitcoin.
Right.
But just know that over the course of the next 2 to 6 years, that is in place and it'll stay in place. We'll take 80% of whatever's made for that month and we'll pay it back to our shareholders. And, it's not a lot of money, but especially if you invest, our average investor right now is $600.
Okay.
So $600, if we end up making a little bit of money for that month, you might only see a couple of bucks in your account. You might only see $10 rolling your way. But what it does is it says a lot about what we're doing. It says we're going to be debt free by the time we get to that point. It says that we're putting all the money that we bring in into Bitcoin mining rigs. It says that we're doing what we said we're going to do on the front end, and that's ultimately what's important in order to bring more investors into the mix.
Absolutely. And so now on that, the max of 20% shares, and then you've got the 80% for the common shares. Now your 20%, those are in a preferred shares, right?
No. We will only ever have 20% of the common shares. I'm glad you brought that up. So let me explain that.
Yes, please.
So 2 years from now or 6 years from now, whether we take it public or we sell the company, the officers and directors of the company will only have 20% of the common shares, which is representative of the value of the company. Now, there are companies out there just like us that have preferred shares in the background. Preferred shares in our case are not convertible. I'm telling you that. I've told Pelton that. I've told Yabonks that. I've told everybody that would listen that is in earshot that those shares are there. They're convertible like 250 to 1. It's a ridiculous number, right? Okay. Those are just there to maintain majority ownership through the length of this whole process, right? They don't really serve a purpose, and they really won't serve. They're for voting rights too, but I mean, what's there really to vote on? There's not a lot that we can talk about there, but that may come in more into play because I want to mention something else to you as well.
Yes, please.
But the common shares are the representation of the value of the business because those common shares are what determines the true value. Preferred shares behind the scenes, whether they go away or what have you, they won't be represented when it comes to how you divvy up the proceeds once the company is sold or once it goes public or that sort of thing. Now, I will say this, because we've gotten into this whole thing and it's a simple process and it's easy to understand, it's also almost redundant and gets a little stale. Right. We have the opportunity to make adjustments, or at least, the second year to make adjustments to what we're doing. There may be other asset bases that we look at, other business models that we look at that may either be complementary to, or they may have nothing to do with crypto or Bitcoin at all. But if it makes sense and it's a good fit for what we're attempting to do, then, the old adage, adding shareholder value, anything we can do to add value to your shares is a good thing. So we don't know what that looks like yet. We've actually had a couple of different ideas pop up on the radar that are potential opportunities for us. Nothing we want to talk about today, but there's always the opportunity for us to add additional assets to the book. And here's what I would say on that. Whatever we choose to do, it it'll have to come with little to no opportunity for us to have a lot of debt on the books, number one. And number two, it'll have to be something where the return on investment is so ridiculously crazy as far as the opportunity that if we just perform on an average basis, we'll be doing really well. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's just one more piece of the puzzle as to why your $1 a share today might hold significant value down the road. Okay. Hopefully it'll do that just from the Spartan Bitcoin mining aspect of things. But if we decide to add other asset bases and other business models to the mix, we'll, potentially add more value that way as well.
Okay. And now, of course, the way you're registered with the SEC, have all that capability, that opens up a lot of possibilities for future opportunities of bringing in other companies or revenue streams, things like that. You're not just labeled as just one NFT mining project. You're actually already kind of built a foundation already to expand to whatever you want to do include.
Yes. That's a good point. We can do just about anything we want to with this. Put it this way. We went through the process of the CF filing all the way back from, I think, October 1st of last year. It didn't take 6 months or 7 months, whatever that time frame is, from September to April 5th. But there was some lag time in there for different reasons, just personal commitments and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Probably only takes about 90 days, truthfully. So, we might end up being a company that helps others, that shepherds others through that process. And there's value in that. There's value in taking revenue and, paying it out to our shareholders as through that route. Who knows? But yeah, it's kind of wide open. It leaves you right now. There are, probably thousands of companies across the country that have done a CF filing, and there's very few that are in the crypto space. So to answer your question, it's open for just about anything that we want to drop in there. So we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, so I want to dive into the mining part specifically because I'm a nerd all the way around, but I want to definitely give a shout out here. Welcome, Sadie, and happy birthday to Nick Guru. Good to have you here. And Wild Angel says, we like added value. Absolutely. I'm there with you. And BTK, good to have you, man. BTC is our favorite, as you know. So as many of you know, I am an actual crypto miner. I love ASIC mining. I'm a nerd. I'm an electrician as well. So I've wired it, done all that. Now, Spartan has a very unique concept. You're not just going out, building a metal box in the desert, putting some miners in it and mining away. That's what a lot of these other projects are doing. I'm not saying it's bad by any means, but there are certain limitations as well as risk factors on age, things like that. So could you give a little bit more in depth on exactly how Spartan's business model is on its mining facilities and how that runs?
Sure. We have a consultant that's in the background and will always remain in the background. But this individual has taken dozens of companies public. He is a current Bitcoin miner himself. He has wealth of knowledge and on just about every topic you can think of, from SEC filings to taking the company public, to crypto, to traditional finance, you name it. So I'm not a nerd, and I don't get involved in all of the technical aspects of the mining rigs themselves. What I do is rely on his expertise, and if he's saying, hey, here's what's available right now, and here's why it makes sense to buy these rigs, then that's what we're doing. It's pretty much that simple. But you're right. We don't have a facility somewhere because we don't have that infrastructure, that cost involved, that infrastructure. We don't have the money to do it in the first place. And you're talking millions of dollars to go that route. So what we do is we buy our mining rigs at the good news is, I guess the flip side of 26,000, 25,000 Bitcoin is there's a glut of mining equipment out there. So we're able to buy the same rigs. When Bitcoin was at 69,000 or what have you, I think the same rigs we're buying today, they were at 15,000. Sometimes with a 6, 8, 12 week lag time before you could actually have them up and running in place, before you'd even receive the equipment. Now we can buy those same rigs in the $2,000 range, $2,500 range, put 1,000 over in the reserve account for each one, and be up and running 30 days or less. So Yeah, it's a good system. Everything is hosted remotely. So in the simplest of terms, we generate Bitcoin 24/7 for a particular month. At the end of the month, we have a fee, an invoice that we pay for the cost of the electricity, the hosting, maintenance, cleaning, that sort of thing. And whatever's left over, of course, is the gross profit for the company. And then what little expenses we have outside of that, because there are no salaries, are just basic, managing the dashboard, for example, that houses all of the shares where people can log in and see their shares and so forth. So all of the activity that happens online, there's an expense involved with that. There's an expense involved with accepting crypto. It's not a big expense. So, we have very little costs involved. So, even on those lean months, we're not relying on somebody in our group that's going to, be requiring that we pay them anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 for their time and effort in this project, right? So There's nobody doing that. So so far, so good. We're running very lean, and we'll continue to do so for the life of this project.
Perfect. Okay. And so Joshua just sent a question, and this is where I was going to go next is, for those who don't understand, let me explain something first of all. If you have an ASIC miner and you're out there, say, mining Bitcoin, you can either solo mine, which means you either get the block or you get nothing, or you can go into a pool where your machine gets added to a bunch of other hash rate and all the profits are spread across everybody in that pool. But now, Greg, you've got a whole nother level of pooling on that. Not only are your machines running on a pool, so they're constantly getting revenue every single day, but the machines themselves are in almost like a hardware pool. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. This is only for the initial mining rigs we have in place. So let me be very clear with that. There's been some opportunities that have been presented to us where instead of 8 cents or so per kilowatt hour for mining, we have the opportunity, and it's out of the country, but it's been brought up that we might have the opportunity to do that at almost half that price, if not lower than that. And don't want to go into a lot of detail on that. It's just in the talking stages at this point. Right. But the initial mining rigs we have in place, they are all run. How do I put this? They're all run with a couple of other companies that are also mining, and we all know each other. So if, let's say there's 200 mining rigs in that pool, for example, and 5 rigs go down, we're still splitting the results of the mining operation equally across those 200 mining rigs. So if those 5 happen to be ones that we own, then under normal circumstances, we'd take that hit, right? But it's spread out across all those 200. Now, I don't know if that's going to stay in place for the long term. Honestly, I'm not sure if we'll have that opportunity, but I don't think it'll be an issue if we're able to find some of these opportunities that I just mentioned to you, where we'll see how that all plays out. But hopefully that makes sense. Right now, we have our mining rigs are part of 2 or 3 other companies. We're all in a pool together, and if there's a problem with some of those rigs, we don't bear the brunt of all that if we happen to be the ones that have those serial numbers in our inventory. Those losses are spread out across all the rigs, and so that's a good thing right now. Hope that
is, and that brings me back to the saying I always do with Collect Finances: your net worth or your network is your net worth, and that really is what we're talking here. Is because you are a traditional business, and of course you got to network with a lot of different people operating a normal business. I've been a CEO, I know how that goes. Versus just launching an NFT, buying a few miners, plugging in, and saying, "Okay, here you go. Whatever they do." But if things go wrong, you have nowhere to turn. I mean, you're kind of like the last man on a life raft waiting to get eaten by the sharks. But it sounds like you guys have set this up where you got enough networking out there that for seeing any like major life-altering tragedy, we're kind of covered.
Sure. And that'll always be the case. I'm not saying that we'll always be part of that pool, because that's early on, we've got that opportunity. But, look at it this way. If somebody came to us tomorrow and said, "Hey, instead of 8 cents, we're going to get you in at 3, right?
Sign me up.
Yeah, you think that, but what if those mining rigs that you're going to run at 3 cents are located in another country, in a country that you're not familiar with, in a country that you're kind of relying on and hoping for, you just kind of, hoping a prayer, hoping for the best. Now, diversity comes to mind. The whole diversification comes to mind. That word comes to mind when you start thinking in those terms. If we look up, a year from now, rolling 12 months, and let's say there's 500 rigs out there, and I don't know, 100 of those are in that world, and they're operating and everything's going okay, then you kind of, in the 13th month, you go, okay, what do we do now? We got enough to buy 10 more rigs. Where do we put them?
Right.
Everything seems to be working over there. Let's go ahead and do 10 more there. So you kind of work your way up percentage-wise to that point. And see, that's just one of a couple of opportunities that have been presented to us lately. So I don't want to get into too much on that end, but just know that when money comes out of the escrow account, the first thing that pops into our mind and the first thing we're always thinking about is, okay, yeah, we know we're going to buy mining rigs, but what exactly are we getting ready to do with that money? Because it's going to have implications for all of our shareholders for the long haul. So that's what we're here for, though, to steward this whole process and to make sure that we make the right decisions that are shareholder friendly and they're to everyone's advantage.
Okay. Sounds good. And Wild Angel was asking, can you tell us where the miners are physically, and does that location change with the 3-year contract for hosting?
They're in multiple states across the country, and that's about all I can say at this point.
Fair enough. Okay, it's classified information.
Yeah, and let me tell you why that's, even the publicly traded companies are a little bit cagey about their locations. There's actually a mining operation here in Spartanburg County, and I can drive to it right now and be there in 20 minutes. And it's surrounded by a quarter mile on all sides of nothing but land, right? It sits out in the middle of nowhere, but it's this big 8-story, massive operation. The closer you get, the more you can hear the fans. The closer you get, the more you see the security guards out at the gate. And so I'm just giving an example of even a publicly traded company is protective of certain things. So just know that they're running 24/7. They're running in hosted facilities across the country. Okay. That's about it.
Sounds good. Now, of course, some people may give feedback on that, saying, well, if I can't verify it, how do I know? And that's where I'd say, how do we get communications, or how do we know what's going on within the company so we can monitor as investors?
Sure. Well, it's a good question. We could put the serial numbers out there on the rigs that we own. We might do that. Hey guys, here's what's running right now, and here's the serial numbers of the rigs that we operate, and here's the terahash rates on every single rig that we have in operation. So I think we'll do that. That's probably a good idea, just to give people a sense of security that we're doing what we say we're doing.
Perfect. And, I think that's a great thing. I think if I just get a hash readout saying, okay, I can see every day that we're running so many terahashes, and, oh, look, we dipped a little bit. We must have a machine down. Something must have happened, and then see it recover. Just seeing the work that's going into it, I think, is a great thing. It doesn't have to be, for me personally, the location, but just seeing the work that's being accomplished.
Gotcha.
So let's see. So the next question, of course, as we know right now, Bitcoin hash rate is at a record high, and it keeps going up exponentially. So now, of course, we're in a very unique time where the price of Bitcoin is low. Miners are super cheap and easy to do, but we know there's the evolution of technology. So can you share a little bit about what your plans are as we move forward? More efficient machines are going to come out. What we have today is going to be old school and not profitable anymore. Do you have something in mind to move that forward and always stay on that cutting edge profitability?
Sure. And that I would just say that you probably know better than I do. I'll just be the first to admit, but my consultant also knows better than I do. So again, my role is to bring awareness to this project and always keep people abreast of exactly what we're doing as far as the investment is concerned and any other investment opportunities that we bring to the table. When it comes to that sort of thing, though, we're so early in this game. Your AMA today is probably going to facilitate us putting information on the website where people can see what is actually happening with the rigs and so forth. That's a good thing. An AMA 2 months from now might do the same thing. We might say, oh, we haven't even thought about that. Let's add that to the mix as well. So yeah, we will continue to evolve, I guess, as we go forward. But when it comes to the technology and what's coming our way, I'm relying solely on, and that's why he's in the mix to begin with. So just to make sure that we use the funds that we do invest as wisely as we can. We both know that the halving is what, March, April?
April or March 4th. Yeah, I had the date.
24. So, and we can look back over the last 3 or so 4-year cycles to see what is most likely going to happen, but nobody really knows, man. I could send you our projections today, and you could change the top line Bitcoin price to whatever you think it is, and it'll make a totally different. And that's why we keep going back to $600 investors is just fine with us, man. People just having $600 per person is a better approach because we don't know where this is going. What we do know is that we're running it as efficiently as we can with no salaries and only having 20% ownership in the whole process, because it is a little crypto is still, it's still early, and we have no idea where it's going to go. If in a perfect world, it'd keep doing those same 4-year cycles, right? And we could look at that and project out, which we did with our projections, by the way, and say, this is where it should end up. But just in the last 10 days, I just woke up and looked and went, oh my gosh, that was, we were content for a little while at 29 and 30.
Yeah, not anymore.
So, yeah, say no more.
Exactly.
I get depressed if I do. So
yeah, I always zoom out and look at the big picture. I think that's important here. Now that brings a question about, of course, since this is an SEC registered company, and that means that there's all types of things that gives you power, strength, transparency, but also the capability where down the road you could actually almost be an umbrella company for a sister that hosts other people's miners like mine, where I could actually send you as a company my miner, make some kind of deal. I mean, there's a lot of great opportunities by being registered and by being that solid foundation.
Yeah, I would say it opens up the door for a lot of opportunity. That's probably not one of them, because we don't actually own our own facility, our own hosting facility. But I'll just go back to what I said earlier. Right now we're only a few months into this whole process, and we have the ability to take this whole thing public, or set it up as an attractive acquisition target 2 to 6 years down the road. But we also have the ability to, you mentioned the umbrella. Did you say that word, or did I just?
Yes, umbrella.
So if we're an umbrella company, where I guess you'd call it a holding company, where Spartan Bitcoin is just one aspect of what we do, and we've got other businesses running under that umbrella, absolutely we can do that. No doubt about it. I mean, there's a lot of publicly traded companies, OTC, Pink Sheets, et cetera, that are tens of millions of dollar operations out there that have multiple businesses running at the same time. So yeah, we wouldn't be any different than that. What we don't want to do, though, is end up being a debt-ridden company. That's the only thing. That whole thought process just makes me queasy. So
right.
It would have to be something where you do A and it produces B. Right now, we set up mining rigs, it produces Bitcoin, and at a certain price, we're profitable, and it doesn't require us to take on any debt to do that. So if there's other business operations out there, and we've actually been exposed to a couple, there's an opportunity for us to become an umbrella company, become a holding company. We'll just have to wait and see, but that's a little further down the road.
Okay, sounds good. So you like to keep it very cut and dry and very transparent, like I said, and that's great, because Joshua had a question here. Said, as shareholders, will we get to see the balance sheet monthly on your first month of profit? What was the efficiency on the number of rigs in operation to Bitcoin mined?
What was efficient on the number of rigs in operation to Bitcoin mine? Well, the first month we didn't have any money the first month. So we funded the first 5 rigs, and without going into a whole lot, I don't have anything in front of me, but we made $314 off 5 rigs. What is that? $60
I'm like that
per rig. So, yeah, that's all I can share with you at this point, because I don't have anything in front of me.
That's fine. And will the investors get to see the balance sheets on month by month, or how will they know that information?
What we plan to do is to communicate with our shareholders on a frequency that they'll probably get tired of hearing from us, to be honest with you. But what we'll do is communicate regularly on what the results are for. We got a little lax with that in the last couple of months because there's been no profit. And I think most people realize that. All our shareholders realize that. But we're going to get back on the track. And the other thing, too, is we've been doing so many of these AMAs and discussions and so forth with people like yourself. But we will make sure that we communicate on a frequent basis so that people know exactly what's going on and where we stand at any given time. That's probably the best way to answer that at this point.
Perfect. And I hope we're getting the email communication, because that's one thing that I personally, you and I have talked, where I sent you a couple emails like, man, where'd you go, brother? Now, I know you guys started a Discord. Is that going to be more of the main channel of communication, or what are you guys doing?
Sure. We actually hired an individual who is running a Twitter account and also Discord. And I'm a complete Discord idiot. Okay. Novice. Tuesday night at 6:00. Okay. For 2 hours, I'm going to be, thank you, whoever put that down there.
You're welcome.
I'm going to be on a discussion with one of your equals out there, who's also a Discord expert, and he's walking me through the whole thing so that I can get up to speed. And once I am up to speed, I'll be on there daily, so I'll be able to answer any questions that come our way and be involved in the discussions. And I apologize for not doing that early. We had some issues at home, medical issues, a couple that came our way, but we'll be on there as of Tuesday, 8 p.m. at the latest.
Okay. And so I'm going to shift gears really sideways on that. Now, a lot of you guys know that we did have to cancel our AMA last week for this one due to a medical emergency. So, Greg, I got to ask, how is your family doing, brother? Is everything okay?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for asking. My daughter had some issues. She ran into some issues. First week in college, and she was in the hospital for a while. She's here this weekend doing great, and glad to see her. And you might start, getting teary-eyed if we talk about it anymore. So let's don't.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I'm a father of 6.
Just to answer your question, she's doing wonderful. She's at Carolina. She is in the Honors College, which is a very small subset of the school population, and she's also in the Darlamore School of Business, which is even smaller subset. And she's majoring in international business, and we couldn't be more proud of her. Got a son at Clemson, so one at Clemson, one at Carolina.
Oh, there you go.
2 rivals.
I like that. Great. So it's like Family Feud on a bigger scale.
There you go. It will be.
So, hey, I want to say welcome, Crow. Good to have you here, buddy. And so Connor's asking, what will be your form of communication to the shareholders once they've actually invested? How do they know what's going on a regular basis?
Okay. We will, starting this week, we will be communicating with our shareholders on a weekly basis. And we'll make sure that anything and everything that's happening with the business, you guys will be informed, and it'll be an email communication sent to you individually, actually.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So it's not one of those we have to go to a general place. We actually just check our email. It pops up, and there we go.
No. It'll probably come with the heading Spartan Bitcoin Mining on each one of them, and we'll keep you up to speed on everything we got going.
Perfect. Okay. And then Joshua asked, how much has the project raised so far, and have we hit the minimum 100K at the CS states to be able to issue shares?
Actually, it was 10K. 10K to issue shares. Actually, it wasn't 10K to issue shares. It was 10K for us to start pulling money out of escrow. So yes, we're close to that $100,000 mark. We're actually pretty close to that. There's different ways of looking at it. I think we've actually gone over the $100,000 mark, but not every dollar that comes in ends up going into the escrow account. Let me explain how that works. So when people invest, you'll have investors that, they put money in, and then they get to the KYC portion of it and they change their mind. Or they might do a wire transfer and they struggle with it at their bank to get it through, so they change their mind. So yeah, there's this graph on the dashboard that shares every dollar that's come in, but that number does not represent what actually hits the escrow account. So at this point, we're probably, if you took every dollar that we've got out there and put it into rigs, we'd probably have 25 rigs up and running. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Okay.
We don't have 25 yet, and there's a couple reasons behind that. We're kind of waiting to see a couple things before we make the next move. But I think there's another 20,000 sitting in escrow right now. We're getting ready to pull out and make a decision on. So.
Okay. Gotcha. And now, so for those who are just joining us, may come in late, everything we've kind of talked around it, but I want to go directly to the meat here, Greg. This is not a short term. In DeFi, people talk about ROI as fast as you can, pull your profits, That's not this game. Not even close, correct?
Nope. No. Okay. No.
Want to make that real clear here.
No. And again, that's probably the third time that you've pointed out something that makes it that accentuates, I guess, the issue of how much money is being invested by individuals on the average. $600, like I said, is our average. So we're good with that. We're okay with that. We would much rather raise $1 million between now and in the first rolling 12 months than we would 5 million because think about it for a second. We're building out a company for the long haul, right? We're building a long-term infrastructure, and and I didn't finish that sentence. I'd rather have $1 million with $600 investors than I would 5 million, where you've got people that are what's the word I'm looking for? Looking to play a role that they really don't, or play a role in the whole process that they really don't have a role to play.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just kind of talking off the cuff now. But, now let me just say this. I would much rather have 5 million than 1 million, of course. But if it comes down to, I don't want to put money into the business that's going to cause problems. And we've had the opportunity to put some money into the business, but it wasn't a right fit personality wise. Is that another way of putting it?
It does, and that
makes kind of caught me off guard there. It kind of brought back a lot of memories over the last couple of months of things where I just didn't. It wasn't a good fit, and
right. Well, it just means I'm doing my job right. Because if I don't ask you something to make your brain spin sideways, I ain't doing it right.
If somebody came to you right now and threw $500,000 your way, but there were ties, a lot of ties to that, you'd have. Okay. There you go. I just gave you kind of a feel of some of the things we've experienced that we just flat out turned down because it was not a good fit.
Right. And I totally understand.
When they're asking way too much, where if 80% is what we're putting in your hands and over half that gets eaten up from one $500,000 investment, nope.
Right.
Doesn't make sense. So.
Absolutely. No, and I totally understand. I mean, I have people approach me, say, hey, I want you to show my project. We're going to pay a ton of money and just say how amazing it is. Like, no, sorry, I can't do it. Yeah. I can't sit here and talk to you one-on-one and have an honest, good feeling about it. I ain't doing it. Sorry.
But yeah, just to sum that up, man, because you kind of got me way over here. Of course, we'd rather have a $5 million investment than 1 million.
Right.
But I guess my point was, if it comes in with the investor pool like it is now, and it comes in organically, then by all means, man, every dollar we can bring in is of value. But if it comes with ties and stipulations, then that are outside of the interest of our existing shareholders, then we're not interested. That's
very
probably
nice.
The best way to sum it up.
I like it. Shows integrity. And Joshua says, thank you for answering my questions. We're all very excited to see what you were building come to fruition. I agree, Joshua. I agree totally. And like I said in the very beginning, guys, I am a shareholder. I do believe in it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to dodge any hard questions because I'm here to get to the meat. So yeah, if I'm making poor Greg there spin out a little bit, I'm doing my job.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
No, every time I do one of these, somebody spins me out, to use your term, but and it usually has me like so far out, I forget I'm even on an AMA. I went, oh, wait a minute, let me get back to
Hey, that's okay. That means we're doing it right here. Kevin says, didn't realize you had your own channels. I missed most of it. Sorry, I'll rewatch when it's over. Absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, definitely go check it out, buddy. Love to get the information out there. And if you guys have any questions, please ask them here, because we got Greg hammered down today, and I want to get every question you could possibly imagine that he can't answer. We're going to dive into it.
Yep. Hey, and by the way, I've got 15 more minutes. Okay.
Okay.
So, but let me throw a couple things out there. First of all, SpartanBitcoinMining.com. SpartanBitcoinMining.com. That's our website. $300 is the minimum investment. Once you put your investment dollars in, you'll receive shares. The shares are managed on a dashboard by a company that we pay to do so. So you'll have access to that, and you'll be able to see whatever number of shares are in your account at any given time. And that number could change slightly because, like I said, any dividends we pay out between now and December 31st will be in shares. And SpartanBitcoinMining.com actually leads to the website that you've got posted there. So,
see, I keep doing that. It keeps taking me there. I think it's because I've gone there so many different times. So
it's okay. It's weird with a Reg C filing. This page you have right here is actually managed by our broker dealer. They have to by law, it has to be managed. They have to manage that piece. So there's a step before that, before what you see on the screen there. It's SpartanBitcoinMining.com. So, but no biggie.
It keeps taking me to there for some reason. My computer hates me. So
that's okay.
That's okay. We got the link there. Yes, I do apologize. I do tend to go long. I'm kind of like you bonks there. We like to dig. We like to go for everything. Yeah, there's no easy way out around here. Next question. So, of course, since this is a SEC registered company, taxes now become very critical. It's not like normal DeFi and MetaMask, things like that. If somebody does invest, do they get their tax information? How does all that play out for us investors?
Well, that's a good question. That's something you have to deal with your accountant on, because every single person is going to be different depending on what state they live in, even what country they live in. So that's not a question I can just answer, broad based.
Okay.
I'd probably be out of line to even try to attempt that. So
I appreciate your honesty. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Wild Angel asked, what is the purpose of the limits on total investment?
Oh, that's a good question too. Every Reg C filing has a minimum, but it's not limited to 300. That's just the minimum investment. When you go to the website and you click Invest Now, it's going to bring up that page there. There's actually little 1-minute videos to walk you through every step of the process.
Okay.
But we're set up where we don't want people to overextend themselves. Okay. So it'll ask you a series of questions like, what's your current income? What are your assets right now? All the different things that you would expect when you're making a decision on whether to invest a large sum of money. We just don't want you to. What the system does is, based on the answers to your questions, it tells you how much you can invest, right? So if you're an accredited investor, I think it's $107,000 that you can invest in the company. If not, then those limitations are just based on how you answer the question. So if your income is $40,000 a year and your net worth is 50, you're not going to be able to invest as much as somebody with an income of 150,000 and net worth of 250. So hope that explains it.
Okay. No, I think that broke it down really well. And Wild Angel's saying, don't forget about always question about the UK. Wild Angel, you're gonna have to remind me, because I do not remember. I'm not gonna remember my name right now, honestly. So yeah, if you would share that with me, so we can get that asked here. Now, Greg, when I went through that process, went through the questionnaire, it took me to a site called CoreConX. There we go.
Okay.
What exactly is that, and why is that required? That's not something most of us DeFi guys are used to.
Sure. CoreConX is a company that we use to manage all of the behind the scenes steps in the process. From the time you make the decision to go to the website and determine whether this is a good fit for you. Until the time that you actually have your investment in place, it hits the escrow account and your shares actually show up in the account. CoreConnex is just the company that we use behind the scenes to manage that process. They're one of 14 different companies that are in the mix with this project. So whether it's a company to help us accept crypto, or whether it's our corporate attorney, or whether it's our accounting firm, or whether it's CoreConnex, or whether it's a company doing, all these different functions. And there's probably, I think, last count, a little bit over 40 people involved from all 14 of those companies that we, interact with on a regular basis in order to make sure this thing functions the way that it should. Now, take Spartan Bitcoin Mining out of the mix and plug in Bill's real estate company. Somebody that's out buying, real estate and doing something totally different from what we're doing. They still have the same infrastructure, right? Something very similar. They might have different companies, they might have different vendors, but they're still going to have those same functions occurring regardless of what type of business they're operating. So on a Reg C, this is what kind of came our way and what was recommended to us in order for all the functionality to work the way that it should.
Okay, so it's kind of like a DApp, if you will, that covers everything.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And so Wild Angels reminded me, says she asked that on my Discord channel. A person in UK does not have a social security number because they live in the UK. How are they able to fill out that form and invest in Spartan?
It's a good question. Let me find out, and I will put that in our response in our next email.
Perfect. That'll be great. And as soon as I get that, I will pass that over to her and post that in my Discord as well.
Okay.
And so then Kevin James says, how do you check on the details of your investment provided with regards to their financial status? Based on your guys trusting investors being honest, or do you run credit checks?
No, we don't run credit checks. What CoreConnex does is they base it on your entries, right? They base it on what you put in as to whether or not it makes sense for you to have a limit on what you can invest. Now, when it comes to accredited investors, they may do that. We don't have any accredited investors, I don't think, that have invested in the mix. Actually, we do. We have a couple. We actually do have a couple of accredited investors, but they haven't invested at the rate where it might warrant a credit check.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I was going to ask you. So let me ask you: if somebody does go through and let's say they go total mental and they sell their house or whatever, take all that money and they want to invest in this, but they flip burgers for a living or whatever. Obviously, they don't meet that scale. If you find out down the road, how does that play out?
I have no idea.
Okay. Hey.
I have no idea.
Fair enough.
I have no idea. Yeah, I can't. I can't imagine that happening, but I'll let you know if it does.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to know it. And then I want to know how you dealt with it. Absolutely. So, Greg, I know you're running close on time. Now, one thing, again, on people in DeFi are not real familiar with traditional investing. Now, we're going to get shares on this. And the question, of course, is always, well, okay, what if something happens, some tragedy? Can I sell my shares? Can I transfer ownership to my son? Can I give them away as Christmas? What can I do with those, or am I just locked in?
I think you can transfer shares to other individuals, but as far as selling shares, we're all going to benefit at the same time. We're all in this together. That's the best way I can put it. Yabonk says that on almost every discussion that we have. This is a project where don't bet the farm, right? But if you're interested, it's going to be a fun ride, and we will all cash out together. And when we do, 80% will be in the hands of you guys, 20% on our end. We thought that was about as fair as we could make it. And for that 20%, what we do is we shepherd, you guys and us too through the entire process and get us to the end point, the end game. And for us, it's more than worth that 20% in order to get us to that point. And again, if you think about it, if you think about everything you've heard today, just realize this: we're not here to make a living off Spartan Bitcoin mining. We're here to enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, put something together that's going to have value for us. And if it has value for us, it's going to have value for you as well. And again, that goes right back to what I just said. We're kind of all in this together. We will all cash out at the same time. And with that in mind, you make a decision that's right for you, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. And as always, this is not financial advice, guys. I said this in the very beginning. Yes, I'm an investor, but it doesn't mean I say it's right for you. Do your own due diligence, make your own choices. So I think we've covered all the questions so far, Greg. Is there anything I haven't covered that you would like to share with us?
I don't think so. You've brought up some really good points. I'm glad, by the way, I'm glad you pushed me. You know, you maybe spent about 3 minutes spinning my head around like a crazy person, but it's all good. Everything that you do to push the envelope is helpful to us. And for example, there'll be things added to our website as a result of this. There'll be questions answered in the next email communication. So I appreciate that. It's a good thing.
My pleasure, Greg. And hey, I want to thank you for joining us, and everybody in the audience. Thank you guys so very much. You can definitely jump in, check out the Discord, go to the website for Spartan. And if you have any questions, shoot Greg here an email or hop in and we'll get them answered for you. So Greg, thank you very much for your time. And until next time, catch you later.
All right. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Take care, everybody.